Yes. So today we begin with the third subsection of the second section of this lesson of rise of commercial forestry. So far we have looked at how deforestation started in India right from the 18th century after the Industrial Revolution and after the British and the Europeans started acquiring colonies all across the world. And India was one of them. And also because of the rise in the need, also because of the increase in the need for the shipbuilding and laying the railway tracks, there was a need to cut down, clear down many forests for the requirement of durable timber for building ships. So, and also because of population increase, and also because of the colonists, their need to earn more and more profit. This was the reason why deforestation started in India. That we looked at that in the first section. In the second section on the rise of commercial forestry, so far we have looked at how the British realized that they need to manage the forests in India because these forests were being used by the local tribals and the villagers for their own everyday life needs. For example, for fuel, for food, for house building, and for various other purposes, these tribals were completely dependent on the forests. But now when the Britishers realized that they need certain variety of trees for their own commercial purpose, for shipbuilding, for laying the railway tracks, or some varieties of plants and trees which were of use to them as raw material, they started thinking of planning this forestry. And they made the Forest Act in 1865 under the Inspector General, the first Inspector General of the Forest in India, they appointed. His name was Dietrich Brandis in 1864. And in 1865, they started this Forest Act, according to which the tribals were prohibited from entering the forests and do their everyday activities. Now there was an amendment in this Forest Act of 1864 again in the year 1868 and the year 1878 and 1927. The same Forest Act was further amended, and in the year 1878 all the forests in India were further divided into three categories: reserved, then protected forests, and the third category was of the villagers. Is everybody with me? So far you have understood, beta?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the screen visible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this was a quick recap of what we have done so far. After this, we also studied about how scientific forestry was being taught in the Imperial Institute, which was established in Dehradun. Yes, and over there, scientific forestry was taught, according to which the British decided which all patches of forest should be cleared, and over there, which specific trees to be planted. That was what scientific forestry. And then after that, we studied about in the previous subsection of the second section, how were the lives of people affected, how the tribals' life, especially the villagers and the tribals and people who were dependent upon these forests, how their lives were affected because they were completely dependent on the forests. We also learned about, let me just quickly take this slide back so that you can review what we did before this. Forest dwellers and villagers needed forest not only as resource for fulfilling their basic needs, but also use it as a means of livelihood. Is this screen visible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. They collected nature produce such as dry and fallen wood for fuel, small timber, bamboos, etc. So they were completely dependent. I showed you this picture also yesterday, how the forest dwellers were completely dependent upon the forest. And not only that, they were dependent upon the forest, they took care of the forests and the jungles and the trees and the soil in the forest. It was like their own home. So they took care of the forests also. On the contrary, the forest department needed forests for specific suitable trees suitable for building ships and railways. This also I have already explained to you. I have shown you these pictures yesterday about the forest produce, how the forest also was a means of livelihood for the villages and the tribals. Then we spoke about the hardships for villagers and forest dwellers after the Act of 1878, how the forest dwellers were affected because of them being prohibited to enter the forest, and how the people were forced to steal, and how their lives were completely degraded, and they had to live in very difficult circumstances. Then we also studied about how after the advent of the British, it had a severe impact on the shifting cultivation. Shifting cultivation was a customary practice of clearing a patch of land in the forest and growing food grains for sustenance by the tribals. But now this practice was also completely came under the regulation of the British government, and they stopped the tribals from doing the shifting cultivation also for their own needs. Okay, this is a traditional agriculture practiced in Asia, Africa, and South America, and there are some names also given to you here. Okay, now impact on shifting cultivation. As I told you, they felt that if they conduct these shifting cultivation in the forest areas, it will pose a danger of flames spreading and burning the valuable timber, because it was a timber that the forest officials were concerned about. And also it was harder for the government to calculate the taxes, how much produce are they having every time, how much they are food grains they are harvesting, so how to calculate the taxes. So they completely wanted to regulate whatever is being whatever produce the local tribals and villagers are getting from the forest, not only the food grains but any other kinds of products that we get from the forests. Therefore, they decided to ban.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, we are able to only see the filling the blanks slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me just reshare it one more time. Can you see this now?
Ma'am, now we can see the impact on.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible to everyone? Impact on shifting cultivation slide is visible to everyone?
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
now are we on the screen on who could hunt?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. Now this is the third subsection of the second section. The customary practice of forest dwellers were prohibited by the new forest laws. They've understood that so far. Those caught hunting were severely punished for poaching. We did this yesterday also, that the tribals were prohibited from doing any kind of fishing or hunting for their own purposes. But on the other hand, the British felt that they want to start hunting as a sport in the forest, just like the Mughals or the kings or the Rajas used to do earlier, before the advent of the British in India. They also wanted to, have conduct hunting as a big game and as a sport. And under the colonial rule, it led to the increase in scale of hunting to such an extent that various species became almost extinct. They also believed that large animals were some kind of they saw these large animals as signs of wild, primitive, and savage society. So they felt that if they kill these large animals, they will be able to control the savage people, the Indians, whom they felt that were the uncivilized and savage society. Here you can see how a small, I have shown you this picture also in my last class also, of a little child. He's collecting fish and he's learning how to hunt and how to fish in the forest. Okay, we did this activity on the tiger also, of hunting of tigers yesterday, counting the number of tigers, how many tigers they have
Yes,
hunt
ma'am.
down. Yeah, we did this also. They were accompanied by whole there was a so many servants who are accompanying them for this hunt, and usually the tracking was done by skilled village hunters, and the sahib simply fired the shot. So most of the work was done by the village people, and the sahib, the British official, will only shoot. So this was how they were conducting this kind of a sport, which led to the rise in the hunting in the forest, and many of the species, they became endangered. Okay, forest areas were reserved for hunting. The British saw large animals as of wild, primitive, and savage society. They believed that killing dangerous animals, the British would civilize India. Moreover, the British gave rewards for the killing of tigers, wolves, and other large animals on the grounds that they posed a threat to the cultivators. This was a ground that they thought, they said that they will pose a threat to the cultivators, so better we should hunt them down. A British administrator, here's an example here, George Yule, killed 400 tigers. Initially, certain areas of forest were reserved for hunting. Only much later did environmentalists and conservators begin to argue that all these species of animals needed to be protected and not killed. You already know about the ecocycle, why it is important to have the carnivorous, the omnivorous, and the herbivorous animals, insects, all kind of wildlife is important for the environment, to save the environment. So if any one specific species is completely diminished, or is completely becomes extinct, it is going to have an effect on the entire ecosystem in a certain area. So this is what the environmentalists and the conservators, they began to realize when they did too much of hunting, and when too many species became extinct. Now we come to the last section of this of the second section of the rise of commercial forestry, which is about new trades, new employments, and new services. Obviously, as a consequence of these new regulations that the British had imposed on the Indian tribal societies, that led to the development of new trades and occupations that started in the forest products, not only in India, but the entire world. To give you one example, Munduruku people of Brazil in Amazon basin, they were basically they were cultivators of manioc, which you already also know, it is known as cassava. You know it, the sabudana that you have when you go to the malls, you can see easily find cassava. They mainly use manioc and cassava as a flour. Okay, so now initially they were mainly cultivators of manioc, but now they became trade oriented, commercial oriented also. So what they did, they started doing was they started collecting latex from wild rubber trees for supplying to the traders, and they became completely dependent on the traders eventually. So there was a huge impact on the lives of these forest dwellers in Amazon basin. And similarly in India, the trade in customary forest products like hides, horns, silks, ivory, bamboo products, and many other things. Actually, it was a customary practice, because since the old times, since the times before the 18th century, in India, the trade in forest products was not very new. It's mentioned in your book also that from the medieval period onward, we have had records of Adivasi communities trading elephants and other goods like hides, horns, silk cocoons, ivory, bamboo, spices, fibers, grasses, gums, and resins through nomadic communities like the Banjaras. So they were practicing this kind of occupation. However, after the advent of the British, this completely stopped. Now there was a complete control of the British, and this kind of a trade was completely regulated by the British government. Also, grazing and hunting was it was restricted. In many of the forests, reserve forests, they were completely prohibited to enter. They were only allowed to enter in the village forest or protected forest. And some of the tribes were even regarded as criminal tribes and were forced to work in factories, mines, and plantations. Well-being of people was completely at stake. As these tribals worked at very low wages and lived in inhumane work conditions, they were not allowed to go back to their villages also. So they even till today India, if you take example from today's scenario, if you go to some local factories where some kind of a food produce is being any product we are making from utilizing from the forests, we'll realize that till today that practice of exploiting these tribals is still there. Even around the Pune area, if you go out and if you observe, if you do some field visit to any of the factories, you will realize that the tribals were coming from the core forests in India. They are still being very much exploited. And if you look at their living conditions, they live in very poor conditions over there. So why this practice still this practice is there, because right from the time of the Britishers, when they were there, they were just exploiting them. And their main idea was to earn more and more. That is what they profit. So they only wanted to earn more and more money. They were not bothered about the lives of the laborers working in these factories, in the plantations, in the mills. Okay, and their lives were completely very poor, in a very poor conditions. I hope this is clear to everyone. The last section of the second section. Yes.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we'll quickly do a recap of what we have done so far. We have learned about the rise of commercial forestry as a consequence of too many felling of trees in the forests. The Britishers started realizing that they need to, devise a plan to manage the forest, and then they appointed Dietrich van Dries, and with whose help they enacted some forest laws to protect the forest and manage the forest as per their needs. Okay. Then also, how were the lives of people affected? I guess 2 times we have already revised that, children. And how did the forest rules affect the cultivation? Especially the shifting cultivation, or what is known as the June cultivation. Also, who could hunt? We have just covered that part also. How the tribals were prohibited to enter the forest or hunt or fish in the forest, and only the hunting remained as a sport for the British. Then finally, the new trades, employments, and services that were started as a consequence of the regulations put on by the British government. I hope the second section is very much clear to everyone. Are there any questions? You can unmute and ask questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have any questions, you can ask me.
Ma'am, you talked about the criminal tribals, right?
They were considered as criminal tribes, yes.
Ma'am, so even though if 1 or 2 people did the crime, the whole tribal was considered as criminal tribe.
Yes, that was the thing. Let me tell you, children, there are a few categories of the scheduled tribes in India during the time of Britishers. They were regarded, the entire family, the entire clan was considered as a criminal. So even it's one or two people who broke the laws. So that led to the entire clan being regarded as criminal, because from that particular tribe, more people are breaking the law. So that led to the Britishers, enacting and enforcing these kind of strict laws against them. Yeah, so of course this is inhumane, and they did many different kind of if you go deeper into this particular act, this new regulation put on by the Britishers, they had their own theories that the children born in that specific tribe will be thieves only, or they will be some kind of criminals. So that was a kind of thinking that the Britishers started, developing and spreading. Also, they started when they labeled some tribes as criminal. They said that people from this tribe always are criminal. It's in their blood. It's in their bloodline. So it was very difficult to handle this difficult situation. The main reason why this happened was because, as it is mentioned in your book here, Begas, on page number 88. I'll just quickly share the screen of your lesson, beta. Please hold on for a moment. I'll open that page for you. I wanted to specifically show you that specific paragraph which talks about how the Begas, the tribes, the forest community tribes of central India, how they were affected. So from a source, I have we can read and we can find more about it. Children, can you see? Is this screen visible to you, all of you? Of history lesson chapter
Yes,
4.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Is the screen visible? Okay. Yeah. All right. Source C. Begas are forest community of central India. In 1892, after their shifting cultivation was stopped, they petitioned to the government. We daily starve, having had no food grain in our possession. The only wealth we possess is our axe. We have no clothes to cover our body with, but we pass cold nights by the fireside. We are now dying for want of food. We cannot go elsewhere. What fault have we done that the government does not take care of us? Prisoners are supplied with ample food in jail. A cultivator of the grass is not deprived of his holding, but the government does not give us our right, who have lived here for generations past. Okay, this source has been taken from Verrier Elvin's 1939 book, cited in Madhav Gadgil and Ramchandra Guha, This Fissured Land, An Ecology History of India. From this book, this source has been taken. Then another source is here for the rubber extraction in Putumayo. For rubber extraction, they take out the rubber, the latex, and they provide the wild from the wild rubber trees and supply it to the traders. So here is another excerpt which will explain you the horrible condition of the tribals in India after these new regulations were put on by the British. Everywhere in the world, conditions of the work in plantations were horrific. The extraction of rubber in the Putumayo region of the Amazon by the Peruvian Rubber Company with British and Peruvian interests was dependent on the forced labor of the local Indians, called Hututos. From 1900 to 1912, the Putumayo output of 4,000 tons of rubber was associated with a decrease of some 30,000 among the Indian population due to torture, disease, and flight. A letter by an employee of a rubber company describes how the rubber was collected. The manager summoned hundreds of Indians to the station. He grasped his carbine and matchet and began the slaughter of these defenseless Indians, leaving the ground covered with 150 corpses, among them men, women, and children. I hope you understood this particular sentence, everyone. How, when they rebelled, so how they were slaughtered if they rebelled, okay? Bathed in blood and appealing for mercy, the survivors were heaped with the dead and burned to death, while the manager shouted, I want to exterminate. Exterminate means terminate, to kill all the Indians who do not obey my orders about the rubber that I require them to bring in. Okay, so Indian population means the native people there. Okay, then Michael Tossing, Culture, this excerpt has been taken from this Culture of Terror, Space of Death in Nicholas Dirks' Colonism and Culture in 1992. This is comparatively a much new book which was written in the 20th century in 1992. So I hope everybody is here with me. Yes. So children, now when we talk about certain tribes in India to be to be considered as criminal, you can make out how the British propaganda was having an impact on the Indians and the entire world. To which extremities they had been to just to earn profit, and how cruel they became and inhumane they became. Okay, so but then this kind of act they may have passed, but this does not mean in reality that children born in those tribes will be criminal. We should not think in that manner. I hope this till here this section is clear to everyone. Yes, any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
No.
shall we start with some recap questions? I have some recap questions for all of you in the slide. Okay, now we'll move back to the previous share of your slide questions. Is the PPT visible to everyone?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Fill in the blanks,
Yes,
is it
ma'am.
visible to you? Spelling में गड़बड़ है, एक मिनट, let me
Yes.
just, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me share it once, just a minute. Let me rectify it. There was okay. All right, so now I'm sharing the screen again. Yeah, is it visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am.
All right, when I ask somebody, only that student will answer the question. Okay? Yes? Okay. Now from here, I want Angad to answer the first fill in the blanks. 1878 Act divided forest in 3 categories. Dash, dash, and dash. Angad, please answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Please name the 3 categories.
18.
Which 3 categories after the 1878 Act the forests were divided into? I've already taught you this. I don't want only few
Ma'am,
students.
I have no idea. Sorry.
How come? I've explained this to you in the previous slide. कौन से 3 categories के forests थे? पहला act, okay, first act was enacted in which year? Yes, Angad?
Ma'am.
Neha, you answer the question. Neha, can you answer the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, tell me.
Reserved forest.
Yes.
Reserved.
Okay. Second
Protected.
one was protected. Very
And
good.
Protected.
Third one was
And third, ma'am, no idea.
village. Yes,
Village,
3.
हाँ.
These were the 3 types of forests I told you. Reserve forest में तो बिल्कुल entry नहीं है tribals को. All tribals and the villagers were only allowed to enter into the village forest, and they were not, and or more they could get entry into the protected forest, but reserve forest they were not allowed. They were completely prohibited to enter. Okay, yes, Angad, can you please repeat the answer?
Ma'am, reserved forest and then protected
And
village.
okay, now again repeat, again tell me the year when the Forest Act was passed.
Here,
Which year this first act was passed, first forest law was passed after the appointment of Dietrich Brandes? He was appointed in which year? 1864. And the first law was enacted in?
1865.
Yes, Ritu, you can answer. You can raise hands.
Ma'am, in 1878 itself.
1878 में तो अमेंड हुआ है बेटा. सबसे पहला किसने, who was the first one?
Ma'am, may I answer?
Yes,
1865.
very good. It was 1865 for the first time when the Forest Law Act was passed. Okay, third question. Sorry, second question. Particular species like teak and sal were promoted and others were dash. Now Yash will answer. Yash, are you there? Yash, are you there? Okay, Anurag, you answer this question. Particular species like teak and sal were planted and the others were?
Yes, ma'am.
Please answer the second question. Yes, who would like to answer the second question? Particular species like sal and teak were, why the particular species like sal and teak were kept and others were dash?
Ma'am, I don't know.
Others were cut. Okay, they were removed. And why only tack and sal and teak were kept? Just answer this question. Anurag. Anurag, answer the question, please. सैल एंड टीक को इंपॉर्टेंस क्यों दिया ब्रिटिशर्स ने और बाकी स्पीशीज को इतना इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं दिया, क्यों?
And because they used
its wood was durable. For
they
what?
use its
For which
wood
purposes they were
durable.
using its wood?
Building ships.
Okay. And children, now I'm announcing this. Probably next week I'm going to take a test. So you better prepare for your test. Next week I will announce a specific date. I'm going to conduct the test from Google Classrooms. I will be able to monitor you also. And I want you to do your assignments properly by heart. Whatever written work I'm giving you, please complete that work. And next week a test will be taken on the first two sections of this lesson. Am I clear here? Any one of you can answer. Okay, third question. The British saw dash as signs of wild, primitive and savage society.
Ma'am, can you repeat?
Third question. The British saw dash as signs of a wild, primitive and savage society. Yes, Chitraksh, answer this question.
Ma'am, can I?
Chitraksh is going to answer. Chitraksh, you answer, beta.
Hello. Ma'am, the answer is large animals.
Very good, Chitraksh. Large animals are signs of wild, primitive and savage society in the eyes of British. That's why they started the sport of hunting them down. Okay, next question. The customary practice of forest dwellers were dashed by the new forest laws. Yes, Krishnali, answer the question, please. Unmute and answer.
Ma'am, the customary practices of forest dwellers were prohibited.
Very good. The customary practices of the forest dwellers were prohibited by the new forest laws. Okay, customary practice means जो traditional उनके practices थे in the forest of finding fuel and their occupation based activities they were doing in the forest, they were completely prohibited. They were prohibited to enter the forest. Now, next question, fifth question. Europeans regarded dash as harmful for forests and that the land used for cultivation, every few years, could not grow trees for railway timber. Okay. All right, let me just see. I will ask any specific. Arya, can you please answer this question? Europeans regarded dash as harmful for forests. Arya?
Shifting
Very good, very
Shifting
good.
cultivation.
Yes, very good. Shifting cultivation. So Europeans regarded shifting cultivation as harmful for forest, and that the land used for cultivation every year, a few years, could not grow trees for railway timber. Very good, Arya. Okay, next question. New opportunities for work did not always mean improved dash for the people. I will ask the student and only that person will answer. Wait. Bhakti. Yes, Bhakti, please answer this question. New opportunities for work did not always mean improved dash for the people.
So work.
I'm not able to hear you. You can type your answer in chat box.
Not
Also. New opportunities for
always
work did
mean
not always mean improved.
improved.
Shruti, can you answer, beta? Shruti? Here we're talking about the new opportunities for the tribal people. So here the sentence is like new opportunities. This question belongs to the last subsection of the second section we have just now covered. New opportunities for work did not always mean improved dash for the people, for the tribal people. Mahi, can you answer this question? Okay, Kritika. Kritika, yeah.
Well-being.
Improved well-being. Very good. The answer is improved well-being or improved conditions for the tribal people. Okay, now this brings us to the second section of this particular lesson.
Ma'am, I told that.
Who told that? I could not hear you, beta. You have to unmute your mic.
I gave the same.
Okay, I could not hear you. You must not have unmute your mic.
Yes,
That's-
ma'am.
yeah. So you have to unmute, because why? What I have done is I have muted
Yes,
all of
ma'am.
you, because what I have realized is many of you speak something or some distraction is there. Whenever you are only allowed to unmute, and then only you will be able to speak. So I have done this setting here. Okay, so that we don't have any distractions. Okay, children. So now this
Ma'am,
brings us to.
actually, we all were able to hear.
I'm sorry. Please repeat.
All were able to hear her.
Yeah, because if she
When she
does
answered.
not do unmute, then we will not be able to hear you. Okay. So whenever you want to say anything, you have to unmute your mic and then speak. You can make out from your mic symbol if whether you are mute or unmute. Okay. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.